What's up, you guys? Today I'm going to be taking a look at 3 investments that I'm buying for April 2021. I'm Sean from Gym Class Finance. Today we're going to be taking a look at those 3 investments for April 2021. And before I go any further, I just want to make sure that you know I am not a financial advisor. These are my opinions, my views, and my views only. Always do your own research anytime you're looking to invest in the stock market. Typically, my investment strategy involves ETFs, index funds, and mutual funds. Today, I'm going to share one stock that I'm going to be interested in buying in April 2021. Let's stop the talk and let's get into that first investment. We're first going to be looking at an index fund that I'm buying through Fidelity in my Roth IRA. And that index fund is ticker symbol FZROX, the Fidelity Zero Total Market Index Fund. So in other words, it's a total stock market fund. So maybe you're wondering, what does that exactly mean? That means that you are getting the entire stock market when you buy this index fund. And guess what? It has a 0 expense ratio. What does that mean? That means that you pay nothing except for what you pay for the fund. So you're not paying any fees when you buy it. There's no expense ratio, so you're not paying any annual fees. Absolutely no fees. There are some other funds like this through Fidelity. This is just one that I'm going to talk about, but I'll talk about all of the other ones as well because I think this is going to be a popular thing for people to invest in because you're not wasting money or having cash tied up in those fees through those expense ratios. So that is why I really love these funds. But let's go a little further into what you're actually getting with this one. As you take a look at how it's weighted, you can see that information technology, healthcare, consumer discretionary, financials, and communication services are those top 5 sectors. But it's also very diverse, as you can see the percentages for all of the other sectors. This view also shows the top 10 holdings. And if you're familiar with investing, these companies should be very familiar with you. Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Facebook, Tesla, Google, Berkshire Hathaway, Johnson & Johnson, and JP Morgan. When you're investing in this fund, you are investing pretty much entirely in the US stock market. It is a relatively new fund with it starting back in August of 2018. So I think a lot of people are still learning about this fund and learning, the fact that there's absolutely no fees. Now, there are some funds that are very similar to it, have very minimal fees as well, but this is one that I decided that I was going to go with because there's absolutely no expense ratios, no fees related to this fund. Just to recap, it's ticker symbol FZROX. That's the Fidelity Zero Total Market Index Fund. That is our first investment. Second on the list that I'm going to be looking into for April 2021 are the ARK funds. Now, I like a couple in particular, but I do have very small positions in each of the 5 ETFs. So there's ARK-K, which is the ARK Innovation ETF, ARK-Q, Autonomous Technology and Robotics ETF, ARK-W, which is the Next Generation Internet, ARK-G, the Genomic Revolution ETF, ARK-F, which is FinTech Innovation, and ARK-X, which is the most recent one, which is Space Exploration and Innovation ETF. The ARK funds are a very popular thing right now. The expense ratio is a little higher than I like. You may have heard of the name Cathie Wood. I've talked about her in another video. She is the CEO of ARK Funds, and she does these amazing talks talking about how these technology companies are completely innovating and changing the way our world functions, essentially. And so, I've kind of been reading up on her a little bit and kind of following some of the guidance that she's been giving, especially towards Tesla, and there's some pretty exciting things going on. So in our first investment, there was a 0 expense ratio to get the entire stock market. Now, this fund is definitely going to be a little bit higher of an expense ratio, of a 0.75 expense ratio. Now, that's a little higher than I like to pay, but you pay for what you get, and this ETF is actively managed, and you can, it's obviously a little more risky, but it is also the exposure it has to some of these companies, the returns could be phenomenal on many of these companies that the ARK funds are invested in. Now, I'm not going to go through every fund. In another video, I'll probably look at these funds a little more specifically, but I'll just let you look at the ARKQ and fund, and you're able to see the top 10 holdings in that position. As I said already, Tesla is a company that they believe heavily in, and they're always adding to those positions. And so in many of these funds, Tesla is one of their highest weighted companies, but you can kind of take a look at each of those companies. The one that interests me is the Deere and Company, the John Deere. Just interesting that they're weighted so high and they're in this autonomous robotic area. I just never really thought about them. One other company that you can see it's 4.76 weighted, a company that I have always been fascinated by this company. It's JD. It's a company in China. A lot of people say it's the Amazon of China. And so that is also in this. And I did a lot of research on them like 2 years ago. It's crazy what they have going on in these factories and how they have the distribution set up. It's phenomenal. It's unbelievable. And so that is obviously the fourth most weighted company in this ETF. So ARK investments, you can take a look at each of them. They're a little bit different. They have the companies weighted a little differently. Some companies are in certain funds, some companies aren't in any of those funds. But go ahead and take a look at those. I like 3 of the 5 more in particular, but I'll go into detail about that in another video. But that is number 2 on the investments for April 2021, the ARK funds. So far we have an index fund which tracks the overall index, and in particular we're tracking the entire stock market with the first fund. The second fund is an ETF, which is going to track the funds that the portfolio managers choose. And so Kathy Wood is the CEO, so she has a lot of influence, but they have all these algorithms and systems that look into this stuff and do the research and look into the futures. And so the ETF is our number 2, and we're going to move on to our last investment for April 2021, which is going to be a single stock, and that stock is Airbnb. The ticker symbol is ABNB, and this is a stock that is fairly new to the stock market. It has been it IPO'd less than a year ago, and I'm sure you guys have all heard of Airbnb. Very popular. Took a big hit with coronavirus, obviously, and there still is that uncertainty. But I just, I've been talking to a couple people that have Airbnbs, and the future looks bright as of now. And I think that's what people want when they're traveling. They want to kind of make it feel like home rather than having to use a hotel or stay at a hotel. And so I think people are really, as they're building their homes, they're even creating special areas to host. And so I do think the future is bright with Airbnb. Now, this stock has fluctuated in the time since it came onto the stock market. Its 52-week low is $121.50, and its 52-week high is $219. It's currently priced at $186 right now. And so it does have some room to get back to those levels that it was at. And really, I think this summer could be great for Airbnb. I'm interested in seeing what those numbers are going to be as we progress and hopefully make progress towards more people being comfortable traveling. And so this is a company that, has places all over the world and is rapidly growing. There you have it. Those are my 3 investments for April 2021. I wanted to make this video short enough that you weren't going to lose interest, so hopefully it kept you entertained. Let's take a look and recap those one more time. It's the FZROX, or the Fidelity Zero Total Market Index Fund, where you get the entire stock market. The second fund are the ARK funds, which are going to be investing in technological futures and innovations. And finally, we went with a single stock, which, like I've already said, I don't typically invest in single stocks because obviously doesn't create a whole lot of diversity for a portfolio. but there are some companies that I like to snag a couple shares of, and Airbnb is one of those, ticker symbol ABNB. If you found value in this video, please smash that like button. That helps the algorithm. And if you just stumbled onto this channel, hit that subscribe button. That helps out big time. Remember, it's that simple.